Welcome back to Upside Down Influencer, where we talk about the things that we see on social media and how we as Christ followers can do it differently. I'm your host, Jessica Johnson, and today we're talking about cancel culture. But here's the thing, a lot of us have heard about cancel culture, have witnessed it from afar, but not many of us actually know somebody who has truly been canceled. Well, I do. And he's here today. Today, I'm joined by my friend, Ty Kelly. You've probably seen some of his videos and you didn't even know it. He's built a really big following on his social media and has surpassed over 1 million followers on TikTok. So today, we're talking all about what it's like to walk through being canceled, how to navigate that as a Christ follower, and the sanctification journey that happens along the way. But it's also really eye-opening in terms of, man, we can be really quick to judge. And how do we move forward after making mistakes online? Here's my interview with Ty Kelly. Well, welcome to the Upside Down Influencer podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you. Considering it's like 8 o'clock in the evening. Everybody's just been super gracious with the schedule and baby life, and I know you know how that goes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have 3 kids.
Yeah. We had 3 kids in 5 years. So we took a crash course on how to be a parent. Sometimes I wonder why they let the kids come home with us, but they did.
Yeah.
And Haley's amazing. My wife, you know Haley, but these people don't know Haley.
She is awesome.
She's great, and she's a fantastic mother. And now we have a 7, a 5, and a 3-year-old. And they're in sports, they're in school, they're just growing like weeds. It's really fun to watch.
And you have a very unique dog.
Yes.
You have a 3-legged dog. Why does your dog have 3 legs?
My son, God bless him, dropped Knox at like 8 or 9 weeks old. He was holding Knox, and to give him credit, Knox kind of shuffled out of his hands. It was
Very
more
easy
of like
to do with a puppy. Yeah.
Yeah, and so at the time, my son was probably like 3 years old.
Yeah.
So small. He's very down to the ground, like very close to the ground. So you wouldn't think that short of a drop would, but he just landed perfectly. Mm-hmm. And he broke his leg in 2 places. And the animal doctors, they only saw 1 break. They didn't see 2 breaks. So when they splinted him, his arm started growing back and incorrectly, essentially. And it's called like an angular limb deformity. Okay. And so it was going so far off to the side that at his joint it was like subluxing and like coming out of socket. It was causing like a lot of pain when he was trying to walk. So then they gave us the option of, hey, this is going to be an over $10,000 surgery, or you can amputate his leg. So we wanted to keep Knox.
Yes.
And so we had to amputate his leg. It was really rough.
But it makes for something very special and unique, and I'm sure anybody who like maybe comes over for the first time is like, well, that's got to be a story, you know?
Oh yeah, they're like, was he born like this? And,
right.
You know,
yeah.
And then when I tell them what happened, they're like, oh, that's not good.
No, it's okay. I think he's super cute. Whenever I see it, like occasionally you'll see your dog like in the background of something Haley posts on her stories, and I'm just like, oh yeah, they have a 3-legged dog.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you've been in content creation now for a few years. Mm-hmm. Walk us through that journey.
So I think it's important to clarify that I genuinely believe that God puts things in our hearts, things that we are meant to do. And we all have different gifts and abilities. I believe that one of the things that God has given me is creativity. Mm-hmm. And so I've always created, even as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I could get a hold of a camera, I was on it. I was filming with my parents' camera and recording things and watching it back on VHS, like on the big, TV. And so I've always done that. But I had never really put it anywhere. Mm-hmm. It was just like stored somewhere. I never like actually posted it to the public. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until right when COVID hit is when I saw a commercial or a preview of TikTok. Mm-hmm. And I was like, kind of looks like Vine.
Yeah, I was just
a
going
little
to say
bit,
that. Mm-hmm.
You know, but a little bit longer length of videos.
Did you do Vine?
I did. But I caught Vine at like the tail end when it was like dying off.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like I would have loved that. And I was getting into the Vine thing and then it just went away. I was like, okay, this reminds me of Vine. I'm going to download it. And I think I did some really weird video. It got like 300 views. And I was like, I don't know if I like it. And then I was like, I think I'll post again. And then I wasn't getting any views. And I don't know. I think the first video that really went viral for me was actually, it was a quote by Denzel Washington talking about God. And I just used his voiceover. And I basically like pointed at different things and had like captions come up on the screen. And it got like 200,000 views. And I was like, dang. And just from that video, mind you, this was like 2020.
Yeah. When
I feel like the virality of TikTok was just starting. Mm-hmm. And so I personally feel like it was a little easier to go viral back then because it wasn't as saturated. Mm-hmm. So that video, I felt like I had no business going viral, but it got like 200,000 views. I was like, oh, wow. So I was like, oh, I'll make another one. And then my goofiness like started coming out, and I would do some little skits with Haley. And but it wasn't until I made a video of myself impersonating a Chick-fil-a employee, like chasing down a car.
And those were so funny. I'm sure a lot of people have actually seen these videos and not even know that was you. What was like the first one of the Chick-fil-A series that went viral? What did you do in it?
I chased down I'm sorry. The first one that I did was literally impersonating like if you were to order at a Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. And so I basically took my wife's order but was asking her to move along in the line.
Yes.
And then I started running and then she started speeding up and then I started sprinting. And by the end I was like sprinting, like asking for her to like pay.
Yep.
And so that one got like 5 million views or something crazy like that. And then I said, I think we're on to something. And I then made another one and then it got even more than the first one. And then I made another one that got even more than that one.
Yeah. And
then I told he was one of my best friends who actually lived in Dallas, got me my job in Dallas. Mm-hmm. That was one of the most fun years of my life because we were together and we got to film together all the time. I was like, hey, we got to just bulk film a bunch of Chick-fil-A stuff.
Yeah.
And so for like a month or two, that's all I posted was just me doing Chick-fil-A. And then we turned into like a Chick-fil-A Bootcamp. It was like what it would be like to be behind the scenes train at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
And it was just all over the top and it's obviously satire.
It's such a creative idea.
But that is what really put me on the map. I think after...
Were you ever nervous in the beginning that like, oh, I'm just going to be known as the Chick-fil-A guy? Like, did you feel the pressure to have to be like, I need to come up with something else?
I personally loved it.
Oh.
I thought it was great being the Chick-fil-A guy. Like, people literally called me the Chick-fil-A guy. And I was like, oh, I could do this forever.
Yeah.
Like, there's endless content that I can run with this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I had months worth of content that I could have done. And around that time, I think I had about 400,000 followers on TikTok. And at that point in time...
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was...
That's a ton.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it was the first time that I had ever considered the idea that we could, actually make money from social media. Mm-hmm. And I think at that point is when we actually changed our name from Ty Kelly to the Kelly Fam, because we were instructed that, hey, if you actually want to make a living on social media, you need to not niche yourself, which I personally now think is a load of junk. I think you should niche yourself. But they didn't want me to attach myself to a certain brand, is what they were really trying to imply.
Who's they? Like a
social media manager,
okay.
Someone that was going to get me brand deals.
Okay.
And so they were going to manage me essentially and take a cut of whatever I got paid.
Yeah.
And this lady was great. She was basically making 6 figures a year from social media herself. So I figured, oh, she knows what she's talking about clearly. And she wanted to manage us. And so she suggested pivot to the Kelly Fam and break away from Chick-fil-a. So that's when we kind of retracted back from posting nothing but Chick-fil-a. And then we started doing like more.
Did you regret that decision, or did you feel like it was the right move?
Oh, I regret it all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I personally believe that we were onto something amazing.
Yeah.
And I personally believe that over time, although I like did the Chick-fil-A stuff, I think that there would be brands eventually that would have been like not in the same competition with Chick-fil-A that would have been like, oh, can you make a video about this? Because there was at one point we did like McDonald's versus Chick-fil-A, and then I was starting to branch out. We made music videos, like we were starting to branch out and do other things. And I didn't post every single post Chick-fil-A, but I was like, I enjoy this. This is fun. This doesn't feel like a job to me. This is just enjoyable, you know? And I actually genuinely had fun doing it. And that was some of the most fun I had. It was clean. It was happy-go-lucky. Like anybody could watch it. It was evergreen.
Yeah, kids would love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I felt no remorse in putting that out to anybody. Like whether you're 3 years old or you're 99 years old, like you could watch that and not feel. You don't have to regret. Like oh, did someone see that I might be embarrassed?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But I don't regret it in the sense that it taught me a lot of lessons with the other content that I started doing.
Because your Husband Bootcamp was arguably just as viral, right?
Oh, yeah, it was probably more viral, actually. Yeah. And it forced me to pivot and say, all right, how can I take what I learned from the virality of Chick-fil-A and turn it into something that directly applies to me as a husband? And how can I turn that into a viral sensation, kind of like Chick-fil-A? And I told you before we, actually hopped on here, at that point in time, my sole focus was views, engagement, shares, comments. Like, how can I make this go mega viral? Yeah. That was like, unfortunately, that was my sole purpose at the time.
Yeah, no, we're definitely going to get there, and we're going to talk about that. So my heart for this podcast is to have a place where believers can come and see it as a resource, and something that people don't really get the opportunity to, I think, talk about with somebody they actually know that's walked through this is cancel culture. I mean, we hear it all the time, but I personally haven't met anybody in real life other than you that's truly walked through what that feels like. And that's why I wanted you on this podcast, because I thought he's going to know how that feels and maybe how we should walk through this as believers.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's talk about going viral. I mean, viral doesn't necessarily always equal good. Sometimes it does, right? And you get lots of exposure and it really grows your brand and your channel, but sometimes things can maybe take off for the wrong reasons, or people might just interpret something differently than you ever meant it. So could you explain what happened to you?
Yeah. Well, one day I decided that I wanted to be a YouTuber. And I knew that short form was a means to make some form of money. But if I truly, and at the time I truly wanted to be like a full-time content creator.
And how long ago was this?
It was probably around 2022.
Okay.
Roughly. I was like, all right, I got to grow my YouTube presence. And I need to do long form videos. And so I was like, how can I, and at this point I had surpassed 1 million followers on TikTok.
Okay.
And I still wasn't full-time content creator. So I was like, all right, what do I got to do to take this huge amount of following and divert it over to my YouTube? Like, how can I move that over there and monetize this and provide for my family and, do this thing that I really genuinely love full time? Yeah. Because that's kind of what I felt like I was called to do. And so my wife stumbled upon this article or this video of a guy that had put some extra heel on his son's shoe to get him on a ride at a theme park.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's genius. I didn't think anything of it.
And so somebody else had already put this type of video
Yes.
out. Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Okay.
They just didn't have 1.2 million followers on TikTok is the problem.
Okay.
So this guy was like, he didn't have a big following. He was just genuinely sharing what he did as like a hack. So I was like, this hack is genius. And so we were annual pass members at Disney. We live like 2.5 hours away from Disney. My kids love Disney. And my middle son, Cannon, he's on the shorter side. And he was like right at the cusp of like 38 inches.
Okay.
And there was a ride, Slinky Dog Dash,
Okay.
at Disney. It is not a thrill ride. That he was like on the cusp. And based on like the type of shoe he was wearing, he would either pass or fail. But I was like, I don't want to get there and like him be all upset. And I'm going to do this hack and put like I'm going to cut the bottom of a flip-flop and super glue it to his shoe. But me being me, I decided to film it and turn it into a YouTube video. Well, this YouTube video I was so proud of because I was telling a story. I was really trying to get into the creative process. And
Was the video, so maybe I actually missed it. I only saw a short form video of this, but there was a long form that existed.
yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Interesting.
So this is the funny part. The video that you probably saw was literally like a trailer for
the real one.
for the real YouTube video. So I knew I wanted to create a teaser video on TikTok that everyone could see, and it would be like, if you want to see the whole video, go to our YouTube channel. That was the goal. It was like I wanted to divert people, and so in doing that, I took stock footage of an actual like theme park thrill ride, like a scary roller coaster.
Yeah.
And on top
So
of that,
people are thinking
like, okay, this is a mega roller coaster that he's trying to get his kid on.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, my thumbnail for the YouTube video had like a huge roller coaster in it.
Okay.
It's very deceiving. So fast forward, people catch wind of this video, and it was a slow burn. At first it wasn't like doing that well, and I was like, darn, like it didn't do that well.
What I'm hearing you say though is that you were trying to make this video almost like, look at this hack, but at the same time there was some like playfulness to it. Like like it was still ultimately like entertainment. So it was a mixture of a hack and entertainment. Okay.
Yeah, I was basically trying to kill 3 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, how can I give my son a great time, let him ride some rides that he may be tall enough for, may not be tall enough for. So let him have a good time at the theme park. I'm going to film the process, and then I'm going to like make a video out of it, and then it'll go viral, and then we'll get the best of all the worlds.
So let me pause for a second. Did he actually get onto the Slinky Dog ride with the shoes? Okay.
Yes.
Is that the only ride that he rode? Or did he ride another
on
one?
2 rides.
Okay. So other than the filming part, I mean, how did you feel personally about doing that? Were you worried that he might get hurt?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I didn't think he would get hurt at all. Like Slinky Dog Dash is very much a kid's ride. He was very safe. It didn't do any flips or turns or spins. It's literally just you're in a dog, and it's a Slinky Dog.
I've never ridden it.
And it's just like kind of this. It's very safe. And then the other one is a simulation inside of like an enclosed building. The only reason that I think the height requirement would be so he can like reach the buttons on the side.
Gotcha.
That might be the only reason why it'd be the height that it was.
So you weren't going into this thinking, oh, I'm endangering my son.
No, I never for 1 second thought that my son was in any type of danger. Because that's where I draw the line, of course.
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of people said I just didn't care about my son.
So the video wasn't taking off yet. What was the moment it started gaining traction?
It just started getting a lot of negative comments. And I remember being perplexed like it genuinely caught me off guard. I was like, are people really thinking that this is an awful thing? Like, I'm a dad trying to let my son have a fun time. I was thinking all these different things in my head, but I never thought that it would get so much negative publicity. So a few big...
Now, I'm sure Disney didn't notice, did they?
Oh, they did.
No, I mean the video. I mean when you were trying to get him on the ride,
Oh,
they didn't
no.
take a look at his shoes and be
No.
like, "Oh, this kid's wearing."
No,
Okay.
they didn't look down at his feet. So that's another thing. We super glued it, and then we painted the bottom of his shoe all black, so it kind of blended in. So it just looked like he had a bigger heel.
Yeah.
It actually looked like a pretty cool shoe, and it wasn't like overly huge. It was literally like that much of
Just
a,
added maybe an inch or
like
so.
not even an inch.
Gotcha.
Like I said, we actually, I'm kind of fast forwarding, but we actually measured him after the fact, and he was at the height like that you would need to get on the ride.
Right.
So I did that as like facing the backlash. I did that.
So what was your initial reaction when the criticism started was, I don't understand. Why are people reacting this way? So what did you do? How did you start responding? Did you just having previous viral videos before, did you just let the comments roll in?
So one thing that people should know is that the larger that your platform gets, the more scrutiny it comes under. It's just kind of a rite of passage, I guess. And so I had been subject to hate comments and hate DMs and things like that. People trolling us and all that kind of stuff. This was the first time that it was overly negative, like almost majority negative. And so it was different for me because I was used to getting majority positive on viral moments. And so if you haven't noticed by now, people love drama. And drama sells and drama goes viral. And so TikTok is a place where negative drama will go mega viral. And so people started tagging a few big influencers in the space that all they do is talk about drama on TikTok. And these folks caught wind of it and were like, oh, we're exploiting this. We're definitely going to lean into this. And I had this one guy who to this day, like, I have trouble when, Joby talks about like forgiveness. That's someone.
Joby is our pastor, by the way.
That is somebody that, man, I did not want to forgive him because he made about 4 or 5 videos.
Does this guy have a big following?
Yeah, it's huge.
Okay.
He's got like 2 million, 3 million followers.
Whoa.
And when he made the video about me, that's when the video took off because he basically...
he basically in a way gave you exposure.
Yeah, but it was very much negative exposure. And then another woman who she calls herself the judge, and basically she tries to exploit or expose people online. And so they were trying to expose me for being like a horrible father. And so they basically sent all of their TikTok following to my page and were like, get this guy kicked off of TikTok, get this guy kicked out of Disney, get this guy to lose his kids, to lose his job. They wanted to ruin my life. And I'm not exaggerating. At that point, the video's going like mega viral. These other influencers, their videos were going mega viral. So they're like, oh, I'm just going to make another one about this guy because this is going viral. And that's what they do.
Yeah.
So they were leaning into it. And so they were just like kicking me while I was down. And it just got worse.
And people can stitch your video too.
Oh, yeah. And so it got so bad that this guy basically took several of my videos and pieced it together to make it look like I was cussing and saying things that I never said. And like took it completely out of context. And no one's going to hold that guy accountable like on TikTok. There's nothing to stop that guy from doing that. I tried to report him. That doesn't matter.
Right.
They were reporting my page. We had actually just done a video with Oreo. They had contracted us to do a video, and they basically sent all of these followers to the Oreo video and said, comment on this Oreo video. And they basically were all saying, how could you partner with these awful people? They are terrible human beings. They tried to kill their kid. Like, they're just awful. It got so bad that Oreo said, hey, we're going to have to take the video down. So,
wow.
And then they're like, hey, we're parting ways. We can no longer be
so
like...
they messaged you and said that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And then big news outlets started coming in.
Yeah.
And then it started getting articles written about it.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, Inside Edition wants to do an interview.
Whoa.
And so I did an interview with Inside Edition.
Like a written interview, or you talked?
Talking, yeah. Like me and you were talking.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Like they came and met you in person?
No, we did a Zoom video interview.
Wow.
With like one of their top interview people. It was crazy. Dr. Phil wanted us on the show. We declined that. But he wanted to fly us to Texas to do a show about influencers that include their children in their videos. And they totally just wanted to talk about this whole situation. And yeah, it was crazy. It was a really, really awful time. I mean,
that is wild.
I had people saying that I wish your son would have died so you would have learned your lesson.
People came after Haley's job too, right?
Yeah, they tried to get my wife fired. They were trying to call her place of work. At the time, she was a nurse. And they were trying to call her boss and tell her that essentially you need to fire this girl. They apparently were trying to get CPS to take our children away. It was like the most evil feeling that I've ever felt from like other people. There's a few people that somehow got a hold of Haley's cell phone number and were texting her very explicitly awful.
Strangers?
Yes.
That found her phone number?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how they got it, but they obviously blocked their number and would call, and basically Haley would pick up and then they would just start cussing her out, all the names you could think of that are awful. They were saying all these things to her on the phone. And you can imagine, after a while of being told, you're a terrible husband, you're a terrible father, you hate your children, go die, I wish your children would die. And at that point in time, I was not spiritually where I needed to be either. I lost it for a couple weeks, and I made 2 or 3 response videos that have since been taken down that I'm not like super proud of.
Like apology videos?
No, it was more like leaning into the fact that I did nothing wrong. And that only made them more angry and came at me and my family even more. And it was my pride. It was genuinely my pride. I can say that now, but at the time, I was just beside myself. That was the first time ever that I considered just like deleting everything and just stepping away from social media. And that's something that I have loved.
It's something, yeah. Like it's like suddenly the thing that you just found so much joy in.
I was getting like anxiety. I had to stop looking at the comments because of how nasty and vulgar and terrible they were.
So what did you do? Like how did you handle it? I mean, you said you did these other videos. What was the next step?
Yeah, so eventually I had to come to the point where I was like, I claim to be a Christian on my page. I claim to be, a husband that loves his wife, a father that loves his kids. And I'm letting my pride get in the way of like protecting them. And like, I'm not pointing people to Jesus with the way I'm responding at all. And it was at that point I felt super, super convicted by the Holy Spirit that like, dude, whether you think it's wrong or not, just take it down. And so I took it all down, and then I basically made a last video saying like, I'm sorry. the way I responded was not Christ-like. And that is the part that I regret. I responded out of anger and frustration and pride. I didn't come from a place of humility. I didn't come from a place of,
Like, oh, I might see where you're coming from.
Right. And ultimately,
because optics, like at the end of the day, it's like right or wrong. Like optically, you can understand why maybe somebody would think that.
Yeah, no, that was definitely the tipping point where I realized that social media was an idol in my life. And Pastor Joby talks about it. Like idols cannot be destroyed; they have to be replaced. And clearly, views and going viral and becoming a full-time influencer, social media content creator was more important to me than my relationship with the Lord. And I was willing to do anything, even put extra heels on my son's shoes and film it just so I could go viral. I mean, yeah, sure, was I trying to like get him on a ride? Yeah, but also there was a motive clearly to have something that people would click on.
Like you knew that people would have something to say about it at the end of the day.
I knew that this was going to be a topic that people would want to click on and watch. And I deleted the YouTube video too. And that was, to this day, that was my best performing YouTube video, and I deleted it.
Yeah, I meant to ask, how many views did it all, after everything was said and done, did it rack up before you hit delete?
It was several million before I actually deleted. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does YouTube penalize you?
Yeah, they took all of my watch hours away for that video. Because once you delete a video from YouTube, those watch hours don't count.
Right. How long was the actual YouTube video?
Like 13 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's a lot longer than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I showed myself going into Walmart, Haley and I building the shoe, going the first day at Disney, and the bottom of the shoe fell off right before we were going to go to the first ride. And then we made it all dramatic that like day 2 we were going to come back and like get on the ride. And then on day 2 we got on the 2 rides. And
what did Haley think about all of this? Was she on board from the very beginning? I do wish I wish I could actually just ask her.
Yeah.
Because she might have something to say about it.
Yeah, I would say that Haley is an incredible wife, and she tries to support me in everything that I do, and she lets me lead. And sometimes that's been at the detriment of our family. But I think that even she didn't think that it would blow up like it did. Because there's been times where she's like, I don't think that's a good idea. And I'll say, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And but I wasn't being led by the Holy Spirit at that time. I was being led by my flesh and wanted to get views and be popular and be liked. And the feeling of not being liked when I was used to being liked for basically a full year before all this stuff happened, and like getting up to 1 million followers in 1 year, I was kind of full of myself. I was, they talk
You're
about
like, I know how to do this.
like talk about pride of life, like that was me.
Where would you say you land more now when you create content?
So this is going to be a long answer, but my goal for a long time was, God, give me a platform. And it started off when I was playing baseball. I was like, God, if you just let me be a pro baseball player, I'll honor you. I'll put a Bible verse on my player card, and I'll talk about you. I'll be kind to the kids when they come up for autographs, and I'll tell them about Jesus. And I didn't get it. Like I was always looking to the next thing, like the bigger thing. Like, God, give me this platform, and then I'll do that, instead of like being faithful in what he has put in front of us at that time. And what he was trying to, I think, like, hey, wake up, Ty, is that you have an incredible wife and 3 beautiful kids that God has called you to love and to lead and to point them to Jesus first. And I wasn't even doing that. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? You're so focused on getting views and likes, you have to post every day, and God forbid you don't post every day. God forbid you don't put at least like 3 story posts out a day. Like I was like, I have this schedule. If I don't post, I'm not going to grow. And if I don't grow, I'm not going to become a full, I was so obsessed with it because I'm competitive.
Well, and in the worldly sense, it's easy to become a slave to the algorithm. I mean, like, well, I have to, because if I don't, then the algorithm's going to punish me. When we know that God's economy works different, and somehow if you post a video and God wants it to go viral, it will. But at the time, it's like, well, this feels like if I don't do, if I'm not just running around and doing all this work, then my stuff's going to fail.
Yeah, I was so me-focused that I failed to realize that everything I have is God's in the first place. Every single thing. The platform, my wife, my kids, my home, my job, everything is His. I can't even say like, oh, I worked hard for this. And for so long, I was prideful about it. I was like, I worked hard for this. Because one thing people don't realize, and you can attest to this, you do have to work hard to grow and to do social media. Like it's not just...
It's very rare that somebody just goes viral without having years of work behind them. Like occasionally somebody will post something that happens to go viral, but typically like you can trace back, oh, that person's been doing a lot of work for a long time.
Sometimes decades before they
ever take off. Yeah.
People don't see that. And so I was like, people don't see how much work I put into this. Nobody's seen how much work I put into this. And the hours of editing that I put into this, and the hours of ideation that I put into this. And so once I started being convicted in that way, and it was a slow process, it wasn't just like right away. My goal now, to get to your actual question, is to be in the world but not of the world. In the sense that I know that social media is a tool that I can use to point people towards Jesus. That doesn't mean that I have to post like everybody else posts. And there's been times where I've posted things that I shouldn't have posted. And I had to take it down. And
how do you come to that conclusion?
I think it's honestly the conviction of the Holy Spirit at the end of the day. It's like, did you really need to post that? How does that really benefit ultimately what you're trying to do? And so I'm trying more than ever, even in like the last 6 months, to be more intentional with what I post. And I don't know if you've seen this, but a lot of my stuff I'm posting, if it's new, it's very intentional with like the dad plunge or me taking my daughter on a date. I am trying to teach biblical values, like what it means to be a man that's pursuing the Lord, pursuing his wife, pursuing loving his kids in the way that he needs to love his kids, but also showing the world that Christians don't have to be a stick in the mud. We can still have fun.
Absolutely.
We can still be funny. We can still be goofy, because at
we're
the end of the day,
still normal people.
At the end of the day, like, I love this example. Like, Jesus got invited to the party, so like they thought highly enough of him to invite him to the party, and it's like, I want people to see me and say, man, this guy's funny. Oh man, I like what this guy's posting. And then them follow me, and then maybe they didn't realize I was a Christian from that specific post, but then by my story posts or by one of the posts I post or by the broadcast channel I'm doing, they get pointed to Christ through what I'm trying to do. I'm praying that they see that there's something different about me, because there are specific things that I choose not to do on purpose. And I hope and pray that they're like, oh, this person's funny, but they do seem a little bit different. Like they're not doing every trend, or they're not like cussing in their videos. And I'm giving examples that if you cuss in your videos, that's, your conviction. But there's other things that I've done that other people would be like, ooh, are you sure about that? At the end of the day, I have to stay in the Word, renew my mind daily, because you know just as much as I do that Satan wants to attack us constantly. He wants to take us out and
kill, steal, and destroy.
Exactly. So he's just prowling around looking for a way to destroy us. And especially when we are pursuing the Lord, like those attacks are going to be coming left and right, and they're going to be trying to land punches on you, and you have to be prepared. It's a battle.
For sure.
And I don't think people realize just how much of a spiritual battle it is. And more so than ever, I'm trying to equip myself to be prepared for those spiritual battles, because I know they're coming, and they already have come, and they're going to continue to come. And
I don't mean to cut you off, but a question that I was thinking about was, as you're putting out all this new content, do you feel like after that event happened, do you feel like people had short memories? Do you think a lot of people have forgotten, or do you think it's still in a way working against your new ambitions?
I have never consistently gone viral on TikTok ever again after that that situation. Like my TikTok.
Do you think it's because of that situation, or do you think you just posted less for a little bit after that?
I posted a lot less, but even the content that previously had done really well, I posted things.
Reposted old things,
even edited them slightly different, the little tricks that like trick the algorithm to think that it's like a new piece of work. None of it did as well as it used to, and it was the same type of content. And so at that point, that's when I started trying to grow my Instagram. I kind of like pivoted and started trying to grow my Instagram.
Because then, when was the point that you were like, because you guys were the Kelly fam, but then you went back away from that.
Yeah.
So when was the point that you were like, I kind of want to start rebranding Ty Kelly?
Yeah, so I felt like personally, I didn't like them coming at my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
And I kind of, in my mind, wanted to protect that a little bit. And I also, at the time, felt like rebranding back to just my name would be a good thing, because everyone was searching the Kelly fam.
Yeah.
And so as much as I would like to say it was only like a heroic thing, it was also to like cover myself from being searched and then them being able to find me and still see all that stuff and then go to the page and be like, oh, the Kelly fam, they're still here, So, I mean, to this day, you could probably type in Kelly fam shoe scandal and stuff will pop up.
Yeah.
And
I mean, in researching a little bit, and I was able to find old articles. I did not find Inside Edition, so.
They never posted it. Yeah.
Wow.
I think that they thought I was going to be super combative on the call.
And you were super humble, and they were like...
They're like, this isn't good.
I feel bad.
Because at the end of it, the guy goes, hey, man, off the record, I don't think you're a bad dad. And that actually meant a lot to me. I was like, oh, you just blasted me for like 30 minutes, and then off air you tell me you don't think that I'm actually a bad father. But
Well, he probably realized, oh man, this guy's just human.
yeah, we all make mistakes. And people are so quick to judge, quick to cancel, because I believe a lot of people are hurting. And a lot of people have insecurities. And a lot of people don't have Jesus as Lord of their life. And I feel like a lot of these people, I genuinely don't hold it against them, because they're just broken, hurting people, just like a lot of people.
I think what makes me sad to think about is you had said that it was a really hard thing on you, and you're a believer. But for a lot of people that may not have a walk with the Lord, they might choose to end their life.
And they might resort to extreme measures, for sure.
Yeah. Do you think people expect too much from influencers, but in particularly like Christian influencers, in terms of being perfect?
Oh, yeah. Because a lot of the people that are out there, I believe, are giving a fraction of their full life online to people.
Yeah.
And so they see these people as perfect, and they look up to them, and they aspire to be them, and they're like, oh man, if I could just have their life. And all of us have that God-shaped void in our hearts, and a lot of us are filling it with things that are never going to satisfy. So then we look to people to satisfy a need that only Jesus can satisfy. And then when they inevitably mess up, because they are going to mess up, maybe some are more public than others.
Right.
Because a lot of people are good at hiding, myself included. Like, there's a lot of things that people will never know.
Right.
You will never have known that someone was going through those things because they don't put it out there.
Right.
And so when they do see somebody mess up, they're like, see, I knew it.
It's like they're waiting for it.
They're waiting on it.
They're looking for it.
They're looking for it. They're looking for you to make a mistake, especially if you really put it out there that you're a Christian. Because there's some people that will have like a Bible verse in their bio or something like that, but there's not much fruit behind. And I'm not one to judge, like, because like I told you, I've posted things that people would look at that and be like, oh, that guy's a Christian. So like, look, I've done it too. What I have ultimately learned is I'm going to try to be as real and authentic as I possibly can be. Tell these people that I am the most flawed in the room, that I got the most problems going on, and there is more grace in Jesus than sin in me. And if he can save me, he can save you.
Do you feel like you now have more grace to things that you see online?
I think I've never been a super judgmental person in the sense of, oh man, look what they did. I am more quick to compare myself to others and be like, man, why are they going viral and I'm not? Like, I've done that before multiple times. Like, that got 1 million views? Are you kidding me? Like, I've had that.
A bowl of strawberries?
Yeah, like I've had that kind of question.
Yeah.
More than like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that. However, there's also been times where I've known someone personally and they portray a completely different image online than who they are like outside of social media. And that bothered me. It used to bother me.
Because you've probably met a handful of other influencers in your time.
Yeah,
creating.
and it's, people gotta understand, it is so curated. Even the ones that don't seem curated, it's curated. You're only seeing what people put out for you to see. Even myself, like I choose what goes out and what doesn't. They don't see everything. They don't see my wife and I getting in arguments. They don't see me being a terrible father and like yelling at my kid when I should just be loving on him. My suggestion to everybody is don't idolize anybody online. And the more that we can get in line with, I am a flawed individual that needs Jesus and needs the gospel every day. The gospel is not just for non-believers, it's for the believer as well. And all I want people to see is a broken man that is seeking the Lord every day. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to be raw with you. I might post something that you don't agree with, and it's not on purpose to like drive dissension, or I want them to know that I don't have it all together. I don't want them to ever think that I do think I have it all together.
Yeah.
And I think that people are more inclined to listen and to follow if we can paint the picture of like, hey, I'm right there with you, I'm struggling with that too.
I tend to find that people are more attracted to like authenticity because they go, oh, me too.
Yeah.
I'm going through that too.
Exactly.
My life is like that too. And sometimes when things are a little bit too perfect, it doesn't actually resonate the way that you think it does.
How can you relate to that?
Right.
The one area I'll say that I've been most convicted about is ever even fake disparaging my wife. And it's funny because Haley's like, you've never offended me with any of these videos.
That's what Jack says.
And I wrestle with that constantly because I never want my wife to ever feel anything but uplifted from me and empowered by me and to feel loved by me, because there's been a lot of times where I've been very negative in our household. A lot of it came from comparison. Yeah. And it was always like, if I could just have this, I would be happy. If I could just have this, I would be happy. If I could just get to this, I would be happy. And it was never contingent upon my relationship with the Lord. And so she got the blunt of that, or the brunt of that, because she was one of the only few ones that I was fully honest with.
Yeah.
So she was constantly getting the negativity. And I was like, man, this is sacred to me, more so than anything else. I'm with you until we're 90, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And I don't want you to ever feel like I'm making fun of you, I'm mocking you. I always want you to know that I'm proud of you. Like, I am proud to be your husband.
That's so good.
And, you know, I get a little emotional about it, because she's like the best thing that ever happened to me outside of my relationship with the Lord. And she came back into my life in a time that I was not living for the Lord in college. And God gave me like a second chance to be with her. And I knew that God kind of used her as a vessel to kind of like get me back on track. And the Lord knows where I would have been if she wouldn't have come back in my life. And so I never want her to ever feel like I'm not proud of her, or I'm not thankful for her, or I'm making fun of her at the expense of views.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow, that's so good.
So that is probably my biggest like conviction, more so than anything.
Me too.
I would rather portray that my wife and I are crazy into each other, and maybe that's crossed the line a few times. And I've had to, you know, I've removed a video because of something like that. I would rather people see that I'm so into her than to make fun of her at the expense of a couple laughs or a couple shares.
That's so good. What do you see for the future of your social media, and are there any new projects coming up?
Yeah, I want to get back into the YouTube game.
Okay.
But
just you, or back into like family YouTubing?
My kids are very animated, and so if they want to be in videos, they're more than welcome to be in it. I definitely want to portray a household that like loves the Lord, seeks the Lord, a family unit that's not portrayed as much in our society these days. That's like a biblical family unit. So if that comes into play, sometimes great. I think it'll mostly be me trying to challenge myself, whether that's like a physical thing or a mental thing. And ultimately, I think I get the most joy out of encouraging people more than anything else. So I'm going to continue to grow my broadcast channel where I do just like daily devotionals. I think God is definitely calling me to eventually speak publicly. I don't know where that begins and where that'll lead and when, but I want to start preparing myself for that. And I eventually want to do real events. You know, I want to bring people together and break them down, but then build them up spiritually. And so I'll continue to try to be the goofball that I am, and to draw those people in, and then hopefully I can tell them about Jesus.
And where can people find you?
Yeah, so Ty Kelly Official on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Those are my three big ones, and I basically post very similar things, if not the same thing, on all of them. So you could basically find it all on one. But hopefully YouTube, you'll start to see more of like a longer form, you know, challenges and things that we're trying to take on as a family. So I'm looking forward to it. I think God's going to do big things, and I'm just trying to let Him lead the way instead of my sinful self.
Well, that reminds me of my final question. What does it mean to you to be an upside down influencer?
I think it means to be authentic, to be real, to not try to be so curated all the time, to be spirit-filled and spirit-led, and let God guide the way, and ultimately be very intentional with what you put out there. And for those that do make mistakes, instead of like throwing the judgment and the shade, be the first one to love on them. Mm. And I think that'll go a long way to just be there for people in times of need, and to be a light in an otherwise very, very, very dark world, and to be a difference in a very toxic environment that is social media.
Well, that's great.
Nice.
Well, we are out of time, but I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you guys so much for listening. And if you are on Apple or Spotify, wherever you are listening to this or watching this, if you don't mind just leaving a review and even subscribing here on YouTube. I'm really passionate about the mission field of social media. And so by you subscribing and leaving comments and reviews, that makes this podcast more visible. And look, right now, I'm just running this show. So the goal is for this to be able to grow. Maybe in the future, I would be able to have other people that can come along and help. Any little way that you are able to support the endeavors of this podcast means a ton to me. Okay, bye.